welcome to episode 115 of the Charm City Birdwatch podcast. I'm your host, Nolan McGraw, and unfortunately, I'm here by myself again this week. I apologize for that. It's been 2 weeks now of just nonstop troubleshooting on my end. I can't figure it out for the life of me. No one wants to hear about it because, quite frankly, it's boring. No one knows what I'm talking about, so I won't dwell on it too long, but just know that I'm damn near pulling my hair out at this point, and I don't really want to record this by myself, but here I am. I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. It's like an audio driver issue. My inputs are all messed up. I don't know how they got messed up because Ian and myself, since we've been doing the show, just the two of us, have done the show I don't even know how many weeks in a row. No issues, maybe a little minor hiccup here and there, but you could chalk that up to just Skype having some issues. But overall, no issues, and now all of a sudden something is just completely screwed up on my end, and I don't know what to do. I can't fix it. I have tried everything, so maybe by next week I'll have it figured out. Maybe I'll have everything together, but at this point, I'm pulling my hair out. We are going to focus on the Orioles this week. A lot of Orioles talk. Are going to talk a little bit of Ravens because the past couple weeks we've been saying, the season's coming, it's coming. They're still trying to play. Looks like the NFL is going to have everything in order. They want to play, obviously. They're going to get everything set up the best they can. They can't play in a bubble, so there's always going to be that risk. But they're going to try to play. And now all of a sudden, I looked this week, and I scroll past it on social media. I hear it in passing, someone talking about it. We're a month away from the season starting. And I said, wait, what? What are you talking about? We're a month away? Sure enough, I look at my calendar. I say, oh my God, it's early August. We should be playing preseason football. As a matter of fact, recording this on the 15th, last night, the 14th, should have been the Ravens' debut in the preseason against the Bills. And that really, at that point, it really set in. I was like, oh my God, we should have been completely through training camp. We should have been getting ready for, this episode right now being recorded. Had everything been normal this year, we would have been talking about the Ravens preseason game against the Bills, which is just so crazy to think about compared to where we actually are. That actual training camp is just now getting started, no preseason football, and we're a month away from the regular season starting. It's scary. It's exciting, obviously, because football is coming back and we all love football, but it's also scary, so I'll save that for later, but I definitely want to get into that dynamic of how it is exciting but scary. What are the potential risks that could pop up here? Not just the obvious pandemic, but some other stuff as well, and where the Ravens and how the Ravens might navigate that. But the Orioles are the big story, because after a week of what was just flat out frustrating and embarrassing baseball, you get swept by the Marlins in a 4-game series. Some of those games were just you're losing by 1 run, 1-0, 2-1. The offense is nowhere to be found. All of a sudden, the offense comes back, and you complete 2 road sweeps in a row. At the Nationals, at the Phillies, and all of a sudden, the Orioles have 11 wins. They're 11-7 rolling into this weekend series against the Nationals. And everyone's looking around like we're almost a third of the way through the season. The Orioles have 11 wins. Not only are they above 500, but they are just a game and a half, 2 games at most behind the New York Yankees for the division lead. And as we know, with the expanded playoffs this year and the format they're going with, the top 2 teams from each division will make it. So as it stands right now, the Orioles are a playoff team. They're not just sneaking in either. The team has gone back to hitting nonstop. The offense, almost top to bottom, is absolutely just raking. You still have your guys that are struggling, obviously. Chris Davis still can't hit. your other guys, Dwight Smith Jr., Velasquez, the guys you're not really expecting to produce much offense. But for the most part, the entire lineup is just absolutely dominating. And I don't know if it's still the case as of today, Saturday, but earlier this week, just a couple of days ago, the Orioles were sitting at the top of the American League in team stat categories. Offensive, they're leading the American League in batting average as a team. On base percentage, I would assume. Hits, stuff like that. If they're not number one, they're in the top 3. And just no one saw this coming. Like, maybe you could have seen, hey, the Orioles will get off to a decent start out of the gate. They'll float around 500, maybe be a couple games below 500 at best. But they're 11-7 going into this weekend series. Like I said, you're almost a third of the way through this short 60-game season. And when you get to that point, a third of the way through, and you're in a playoff spot and not just the 8th seed, not just barely getting in, how do you expect the fan base to react? Everyone's excited. Everyone's actually thinking, hey, they've got a legitimate shot at this because they're a good chunk of the way through the season. And if this season can actually take place and finish without any major issues, it's not too far-fetched that the Orioles will find themselves in the postseason. Now, there are some huge, huge variables. And before I get into breaking down this National Series from last weekend and the Phillies series, because there's a lot to get into there, I just wanted to talk about the excitement, the general excitement right now, because I myself am watching every game, whether it's because I'm working with the game directly. Obviously, I'm going to watch there. But even on my days off, I'm watching. I can't get enough. I waited months and months and months for baseball to come back. I'm going to watch every second I can. And even if the Orioles were struggling, I'd probably be watching a lot, but there would be certain games where I would want to turn it off and do something else. No doubt about it. But with the way they've been playing, I'm hanging on every single pitch. I mean, you're getting to the 7th inning, 7th, 8th, and 9th, these close games. I'm hanging on every single pitch from the 7th inning to the 9th inning. These nervous relief appearances, watching this Orioles bullpen try to keep it going, try to close out the game, pick up the save. It's fun. It's taking me back to how I felt in 2012, 2014, watching this team go on win streaks and sweat out close games, win in extra innings. I just haven't felt this way about the Orioles in a long time. And it's just fun. Like, the guys have personality. We're starting, we have our guys that are our favorites, whether it's Hanser Alberto and his personality and just the way he plays the game, that he's just a singles machine going up there, swinging at the first pitch. You got Anthony Santander, the whole story with him being a Rule 5 pick, and him leading the way for the team offensively. Renato Nunez, another reject from another team. He's just a home runs machine. Rio Ruiz, another team, a reject from another team. Last year he was okay, and now the jump he's taken this year is just insane. But again, the personality, his weird long haircut, he's calling it a classy mullet, I think. It's so much fun. This team's got personality. They're playing well. It's the perfect storm. It's everything you could possibly want as an Orioles fan right now, going through what we've been through this year. Bad news after bad news after bad news, nonstop. Didn't even know if we were going to get baseball at one point this year, and now it's back, and the Orioles are actually playing well. So if you're an Orioles fan, I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. I'm pretty confident we all are. But it's also getting to a point where, and for good reason, I've already said that, for good reason, we're sniffing playoffs here. And it's not just fool's gold, I don't think, because yes, you do have a lot of games against the Yankees left, and the Yankees could dominate the Orioles this year. But even so, again, with expanded playoffs and the way the Orioles are playing right now, it's still not far-fetched for them to make it into the postseason. It's just not. Like, even if you get dominated by the Yankees, if you can hold your own against the Rays, hold your own against the Blue Jays and the Red Sox, you could have no issue finishing in second in the division. And even if you finish third, maybe you can grab a hold of one of those last spots, the 7 or the 8 seed in the American League. But the only thing standing in their way is really is themselves, oddly enough, because if this was a regular 162-game season, there's no doubt in my mind that the Orioles would fizzle out at some point. Look at the Mariners last year. They got off to the hottest of starts, 162-game season. You go through the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs. Everything ends up balancing out, and you end up falling where you should. 60-game season, teams can get hot. Teams that aren't necessarily good can get hot, make it to the postseason. Teams that are capable of winning it all, like the Nationals last year, had last year been a 60-game season, we've all heard it at this point, the Nationals wouldn't have even made the postseason. They end up going to win the World Series last year in a 162-game season. So weird things are going to happen this year. That's just a fact. The only thing standing in the Orioles' way at this point is themselves, because if they keep playing well, and we want them to keep playing well, obviously, because it's fun, it's good baseball, but if they keep playing well and these individual performances keep getting better and better, guys like Alex Cobb, other bullpen arms, Miguel Castro, if he can get back on track, Michael Givens, Mike Elias is probably going to trade them. I mean, if teams are knocking at the door, why wouldn't you? There's no reason not to. Even if you can make the postseason this year, it doesn't mean you're back. It doesn't mean the rebuild's over. No, you're still going to have to see this out. It's going to be a multiple-year thing. It's going to span at least 3-4 years, we think, just to rebuild the entire farm system, get back on track, get back to being competitive consistently. Right now, this kind of hot start, it's throwing a wrench in the situation, and I don't expect Mike Elias to be like, oh, we're going all in on the postseason this year, and we're going to buy at the deadline, and we're going to add a pitcher, or we're going to add a star player or something like that. They're not going to do something stupid like that. But would they be a little hesitant to sell is my question. Because, again, it's like you're playing well, you get closer to the deadline, which is at the end of this month. We're halfway through the month, so just a couple more weeks. If Alex Cobb keeps pitching the way he is, teams are going to want him. He's got a full year next year of control. He's not a rental. He's pitching well right now. He's healthy. He looks like he did when he was with the Tampa Bay Rays. There's plenty of teams out there that would want to add a consistent starting pitcher like Alex Cobb to round out their rotation and go on a playoff push. The Atlanta Braves come to mind. They could certainly use starting pitching. They're talented enough. Geez, the Phillies. The Phillies are just in a world of trouble right now. I think they could use a starting pitcher, another starting pitcher that they would like to count on, although their bullpen is probably the bigger issue. But maybe they're a team that says, hey, we want Michael Givens, we want Miguel Castro. I don't know, something like that. My question then is, if you trade Alex Cobb, if you get rid of Michael Givens, Miguel Castro, guys like that, can you sustain the winning? I don't see them, like I said, I don't see them trading any offensive pieces. So I think the offense and the lineup has a chance to keep things consistent. And they still haven't called Mountcastle up yet. Still waiting on that. They might want to trade a bunch of guys, but maybe they don't get an offer that they think is reasonable. And then at that point, all right, now I guess we go all in. Not in the sense that you're buying, but we go all in with the guys that we have. Then you call up Mountcastle, and maybe, and I think Elias has hinted at this, which I thought was kind of surprising, you get closer to the end of the season, you're still holding on to a playoff spot. Pretty sure Elias had a quote earlier this week when he talked to the media. He said, at that point, they would not immediately shoot down the idea of Adley Rutschman coming up to the major leagues. I think that would be a little bit much. You're going to have to look at service clock stuff at that point. I think it wouldn't count against his service clock if it would be considered a September call-up. You could get away with it, but it might be a bit soon for that. It might be a bit soon. But again, where's the team at? Where's Pedro Severino, Chance Sisco? Right now, they're getting great production out of their catchers. So where would you even want to fit in Adley Rutschman? And I know people are saying, oh, you got to make space for him. You got to make space for him. Well, if Mountcastle is up by that point and the team's still hitting well as a whole, or at the very least, Mountcastle's here, you're giving him reps, and Pedro Severino and Chance Sisco are both performing well, both behind the plate and as a DH, well, then I don't know exactly where Adley Rutschman's going to fit in. And he's definitely not going to play every day at that point. So really, at that point, what benefit is he? He gets some major league at-bats here and there, but for the most part, he's sitting on the bench. It would be cool. It would be fun. I think the fan base would definitely be excited to see that your best player of the future taking major league at-bats, but I don't know what benefit that is. So I thought it was interesting that Elias didn't immediately shoot that down. He entertained that. Also entertaining just the general aspect of being competitive, because I think that some of the fan base has been under the impression that Elias doesn't want to win. And you look at some of the moves they've made, not just refusing to bring in talent, but shipping away talent in the middle of the season for not much of a return. We're a third of the way through the season. The Orioles are in the playoffs right now, and the fan base is excited. They want to compete. I want to compete. I'm all in on the postseason. How could you not be? I don't want the Orioles to blow off the rebuild, but as I said, if we get to the end of this month and they can't find trade partners for a lot of these guys, or maybe they only trade one guy or two guys here or there, and they keep this offense intact, no reason to think they can't go the distance, go the rest of the way and make the postseason. And then at that point, as we know, wherever they end up playing, that first round of the playoffs, that wild card round is now a wild card series for everyone. 1 seed through 8 seed, everyone is going to be playing a 3-game series, a best of 3. That's nuts. Anything can happen. And I don't care if you're going up against the Yankees and you got to face that lineup that is absolutely dominated. They could win 2 games right off the bat easily. Sure. But rolling into a best of 3 series, if you're a team going up against the Orioles and you've got to go up against John Means and Alex Cobb, that's no field day right there. That's no pushover. But let's get into the nitty-gritty here. Go back to last weekend's series against the Nats. This is where it all started. You're coming off of a bad series against the Marlins. The offense immediately comes back with an 11-0 blowout win. That was on Friday night. We touched on that a little bit on last week's show because it was fresh. But that continued through the rest of the series, and the Orioles offense was back, took the momentum into Saturday's game, and they were down by, I guess, 3, maybe 2-3 runs late in the game. They end up staging a clutch comeback, 3 home runs in the 8th inning, come all the way back, win that one on Saturday to take the series. And then Sunday, you're rolling, you're looking for the sweep. Steven Strasburg's on the mound. He's making his 2020 debut. Looks pretty strong early, but you end up getting to him late, and his hand nerve issue that he's dealing with flared up on him, and he stayed in the game to his credit. But the Orioles jumped on him on Sunday, and they were on their way to a sweep, another sweep. They were on their way to that. They were up 5-2 in the 6th inning, and then all hell broke loose as one of those weird summer storms rolled through. It looks like an absolute monsoon for 5 to 10 minutes, and then it's over, and the sun's out again. You weren't expecting rain. It goes from sunshine to a monsoon for 5 to 10 minutes, and then back to sunshine. This caught everyone by surprise on Sunday because the tarp crew was not ready. The players, the umps, no one was ready. Radio, TV crew was like, wait, it's raining right now? What is this? We didn't expect this. And now all of a sudden it's absolutely it's a torrential downpour. They got to stop the game. The tarp crew comes out. They're trying to roll out the tarp, and we've all seen it at this point. It was an absolute disaster. They get a couple rolls in. The tarp gets snagged, and it's just a complete mess from there. They couldn't get it unrolled. It took them like 20 minutes to finally get it fixed. By that point, the rain had stopped. The infield was completely swamped. It was just all mud. The rain stopped. They spent 2 hours trying to dry out the infield. They couldn't do it. They finally suspended the game. You know, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, well, that was annoying, sitting there waiting 2 hours for this, only for them to just call it. But the Orioles are up 5-2 in the 6th inning. The way they're playing, they really shouldn't have an issue. You know, at the time the game ended, the Orioles were at bat. They had 2 runners on base, and they were up by 3 runs. I had no issue or no concern thinking that they would be able to close that out whenever the game would be made up. It sucks that it had to be made up, but I wasn't worried like the Orioles were clinging to a 1-run lead or it was a tie game. At that point, I think there would be more reason to be upset, because if the game has to be made up at a later date, obviously we saw the Nationals ended up getting hot throughout the week. You know, Monday through Thursday, they come back on Friday. Their offense is actually hitting well at that point, but, you know, only 4 innings left. You have a 3-run lead. No issues closing it out. I don't care how hot the Nationals are. This goes back to how excited and amped up this fan base is, because a lot of people called into the post-game show and they were not having it, and they were in full conspiracy theory mode. They were saying that the league has it out for the Orioles. If this was any other team, the game would have been called and the team that was up would have been awarded a win. Just completely ignoring, no matter how many times you tell them that, hey, this is in the rule book. If the game is stopped and can't be played because of an equipment malfunction, which the tarp counts as, the game cannot be called at that point. And no matter how many times you tell people that, they just still think it's some kind of conspiracy theory. It's like, no, it's in the rule book. It's laid out years ago. This is not some conspiracy. Somebody called in and suggested that this was because of the Masson dispute. At that point, I mean, that the more I think about it, that might be an all-time, like, Hall of Fame worst moronic sports station phone call. The more I think about it, just to insinuate that this was Major League Baseball was punishing the Orioles, didn't award them the win, and made this a suspended game because of the Masson dispute, and they're upset at Peter Angelos. Wow. Whoa. That's some big brain conspiracy stuff. I guess I'm just not on that level. But that person had their tinfoil hat on for sure. It just comes back to everyone being excited. Like, if the Orioles weren't playing well, no one would care. But they're actually winning. They're playing well. And the fan base is riled up. As stupid as a phone call like that is, it's fun. Like, we're winning, you know? Yeah, let's get mad. Let's be irrational. Let's say that the league has it out for us and they don't want us to win, and pretend that we're in the plot of Major League here or something, and everyone has it out for us and we're the underdogs. It's fun. I mean, the people that insinuate that stuff are still stupid, because they're very genuine when they say that stuff, but it's fun. So that was that series. As we know, the Orioles come back last night, finish off that game, complete the sweep. And the Phillies series, boy, that was nuts as well. The first game of that series, back and forth, that game had it all. That game had stuff I'd never even seen in baseball before. You had, an inside-the-park home run, shaky bullpen performances, an infield pop-up where players come in and calling, I got it, he trips over the mound and it falls in, and the Orioles score 2 runs off of that, end up going to extra innings, playing with the new extra inning rules, runner on second. That's where Austin Hayes leads off with an inside-the-park home run. Wow. Orioles end up winning 10-9. I still can't believe it, but that game set the tone for the rest of the series, because the Phillies actually jumped out to, I think in every game, early on they jumped out to either at least a 2 or 3 run lead. And you're watching that as an Orioles fan, and the way this offense is playing right now, I'm sitting there, I have no doubt in my mind that the Orioles are going to come back. And they did every single time. Game 1, 2, and 3. 2-run lead, 3-run lead, didn't matter. Orioles came back, got into that Phillies bullpen, which is absolutely atrocious, and just had their way with them. and they ended up winning all 3 games. And the last one, it was just a grand finale. The Orioles blow them out. It was so much to exercise those demons, even though the Orioles have faced Jake Arrieta before. To exercise those demons, get on him, get into that bullpen, dominate, put up double-digit runs. It was just fun. And I got nothing else to add here besides just the history that's being made here, because you want to know how crazy some of this is. Not only that the Orioles are winning in a season where they weren't supposed to be winning, but after completing the suspended game last night, they got back-to-back sweeps. First time they've won 6 games in a row since August of 2017. That 2 full seasons where they didn't win 6 games in a row. We also have this. First time the Orioles have completed back-to-back road series sweeps since April of 2005, where they swept the Toronto Blue Jays in a 3-game series and then Boston in a 2-game series. So that was only 5 games. The last time they did a 6-game road sweep was July of 1987. And they took 4 from Kansas City and then 3 against Chicago. So that was actually 7. Wow. Since 1987, first time that's happened. Another piece of history here, and we're going to get into some of these crazy player performances, because who's hitting well right now? Anthony Santander. He's got an RBI in 8 straight games. I think 13 total in that 8-game span. He's absolutely raking right now. And you want to look at Orioles team history. I'm seeing here that Doug DeSantis has the club record with an RBI in 11 straight games. He did that in 1978. Actually, it looked like that was from the end. That carried over season to season. So he didn't even do that in the same season. He did that in September of 1978, and that carried over to the beginning of 1979. I guess that still counts. The end of one season to the start of the next. In the same season, I guess the lead there would go to Reggie Jackson, who was here for 1 year. In 1976, he had an RBI in 10 straight games. Santander is at 8. So we'll see what he does here tonight, Saturday's game, and then tomorrow. Can he keep it going? Can he tie Reggie Jackson with that 10-game streak that he had in 1976? That would be pretty cool if he could do that. Some of the other impressive performances, Rio Ruiz, Renato Nunez, both 5 home runs. Ruiz in line to be most improved Oriole, without a doubt. No one's really competing with him, in my opinion. There's guys that are good, most improved. I guess you could throw Alex Cobb in that conversation, but Alex Cobb has been good in the past, and we knew that his struggles were injury-related for the most part. Rio Ruiz has never been a great everyday player. So for him to take the jump from bench player to everyday player last year, and then from last year to this year, where he has just gotten just so much better at the plate and in the field. I mean, he is saving games in the field. That diving stop that he had in Wednesday's game, and then he can't even throw the ball to second base. He just rolls it across the ground, gets the out. Great play late in the game. You could argue that saved the game right there. That's one of the best plays you're going to see from the Orioles all year. Maybe one of the best defensive plays in Major League Baseball all year. So he's just incredible in the field, at the plate right now. 5 home runs. I did not expect him to be tied for the team lead in home runs at all. Here we are. Looks like Rio Ruiz is the real deal, and not only becoming a breakout player, but now he's getting his name in the conversation for who's going to be here when the team's good again. Because we know Austin Hayes, Ryan Mountcastle, Santander looks like he can be an everyday outfielder. There's guys right now that'll be here when the team's good. And I think Rio Ruiz is starting to put his name in that conversation, because it's not just the improvements at the plate. He's holding it down, and he's playing a pretty damn good third base right now. And that's not an easy position to play. So some more guys. Chance Sisco, he's getting involved. And if you don't, with the way Pedro Severino's playing a catcher, if you don't want to put Chance Sisco in there behind the plate, you can DH him. He's hitting well. That's good. Iglesias is back. He's healthy. He's still a doubles machine. Good to see he didn't lose a step in the time that he was sitting on the bench. And all I can say is just imagine where this team would be if you had Ryan Mountcastle up right now. This offense is already leading the way in the American League. They're getting Yankees-like production right now. And you look at who's in the Yankees lineup versus who's in the Orioles lineup, and they're getting damn near the same production. That's crazy. Why not bring Ryan Mountcastle up? Now's the perfect time to do it. If I was calling for him to be brought up last week when the offense was struggling, because, we all knew it. We can see it. He would be a much better option at the plate than a lot of those guys at the time, and couldn't be much worse in the field. That's just a fact. But now that the team's hitting well, you can still bring him up, and now there's no pressure on him. Because if you bring him up when the team's not hitting well, now he's feeling the pressure. He's like, okay, I'm getting called up. I need to perform right away. Like, they are counting on me to hit right away. They're bringing me up because they're not hitting well. If you bring him up now when you're top to bottom performing well, then he just fits right in. And if he goes out there and he strikes out a couple times in his first couple at-bats, it's no big deal. You're not dependent on him. That's what I would like to see. And then on top of that, if you want to look at the pitching staff, imagine how well this team could play if you let the starting pitchers actually go more than 5 innings. And it's case-by-case basis, but, and guys like Wade LeBlanc, Tommy Malone, Tom Eshelman, Asher Wojciechowski, they're not the best starting pitchers. We know that. They would be spot start guys with a good team. But for the Orioles, they're part of the rotation. I'm seeing Brandon Hyde pull these guys a little bit early. And their pitch count's not even that high sometimes. They're only at 70-some pitches, maybe in the 80s. He's pulling them in the 4th, 5th inning. Let them roll, especially if they have a lead. If they got a 2-run lead or something like that, let them keep going. If they get in a jam, then you can pull them. I know it's not ideal to bring a reliever in and ask them to put out a fire with runners on base, but just let these starters keep going, because the more you can't keep asking the bullpen to pitch 4 to 5 innings every night. At some point, I don't care how short the season is, at some point, things are going to blow up in your face, because these guys aren't the best relievers. They're getting it done right now. They're getting the job done. I'll give them that. It's a lot of fun to watch, but at some point, the wheels are going to fall off. It's going to blow up in your face, because I'm sorry, Sean Armstrong, Miguel Castro, as much as I like him, Michael Givens, as much as I like him, they all have been known to just completely crap the bed at times. They can't even throw the ball over the plate. They can't throw strikes. They have no control. They give up home runs left and right. They're not going to be dominant players throughout the entire year. They're going to lose it at some point. So it would be best if you could actually let your starters roll if they have it in them. And it's not just those guys that you're a little iffy about. It's Alex Cobb, too. Take the training wheels off, please. He's 4 starts into the season. He's completely ramped up. You should have no concerns at this point about him injuring himself because he's pitching too much. Take the training wheels off. Let him go for 100 pitches. It's Alex Cobb. He's been pitching in this league. He's been a starter in this league for a decade. He's been a front end of the rotation type of guy in his career. Let him pitch. Stop taking him out in the 5th inning. Stop taking him out in the 6th inning. And when John Means comes back, he's going to have to get ramped up again because he's missed significant time here. But when he comes back and he gets ramped up again, please let him roll. You need him to go deep into the game if he can. But for the most part, I think Brandon Hyde is pushing the right buttons. I'll give him credit. There's been some moves this year that I haven't completely agreed with, but for the most part, I think he's doing a good job. Finish out this series against the Nationals. They don't have to win this series. They don't. It'd be nice if they did. They just need to get one win here. Don't get swept. You got blown out last night. It's all good. You won 6 in a row. You could stand to lose a game. But they don't need to win today and tomorrow. They just need to win one of these games, and they'll be fine. All right, let's close things out with a little football. Close out with a little Ravens talk here, because as I said at the top of the show, we are under a month away at this point from the season starting. Last night, the 14th of August, should have been the Ravens' first preseason game. against the Bills. Should have been talking about that during today's podcast, but we're not. And training camp is getting in motion. I think next week training camp is starting. Full activities, full practices and all that. We will see how that goes with guys bumping into each other, getting in each other's face. How are they going to keep social distancing while practicing? There's still a lot of question marks because, again, we just haven't seen really what's going on. Media isn't allowed in the building, so they can't tell us how this is being done. There's just a lot of question marks. So the season, as we know, a month away. How is this going to work? Just for the sake of this argument, because whether the season gets played or not is a whole different thing. And it's a big thing because the pandemic, as we know, has been a huge, huge deal throughout the entire year. It's been a huge hurdle, a huge thing to navigate for all of these sports leagues, without a doubt. We've seen baseball try to navigate it without a bubble. It has not gone the best. So football, I expect them to go through similar issues, even though they're going to play once a week versus every day. They're still going to be traveling. There's no bubble format. There's still going to be things you're going to have to sort out. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that the season starts on time without any issues. The question I now have is, how concerned are you about just the quality of play, how ready the team's going to be, and on top of that, risk for injuries, because you're going to go from training camp to regular season football that matters. There's no preseason tune-up. There's no extended practice, months and months of practice, a full month of preseason games. You're going straight from training camp to the regular season. I think we're going to see some injuries across the league. And you just hope, if you're a Ravens fan, that you don't see too many for the Ravens and you don't see any to key players. The injuries are there, but it's more so about this being prepared for the season. Just from play calling standpoint, route running just everything. You don't have as much time to get all these reps in, so you're obviously not going to be as prepared as you normally would be. And I think you're going to see this with every team, including the Ravens. But if there's one thing that the Ravens might be able to hold over some of the other teams in the league, and believe this is not me being biased or being a homer here, because I think this is genuinely true. If you look at the Ravens' lack of roster turnover here, they are retaining pretty much the same team they had last year. The only major departure they had is Marshall Yanda to retirement. And you made a lot of additions as well. Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe, guys coming in, rookies coming in that you expect to be starters right off the bat. You've had plenty of additions, not a lot of subtractions, not a lot of notable subtractions, I'll say. The chemistry is still there. The team chemistry is still high. And in addition to the players, your coaching staff is coming back, because you didn't lose Wink Martindale. You didn't lose Greg Roman. That's important. And in a lot of ways, that might be almost more important than retaining your core players. It's not just the player chemistry. It's not just Lamar's throwing, the timing on his throws to guys like Willie Snead and Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown. It's not just the timing on the throws or the timing on the read option. Are we going to hand it off to Mark Ingram? Am I going to keep it and run it myself? It's not just the timing on that. It's the coaches with the play calling. Greg Roman, what type of offense are they going to run? There's going to be some differences this year. They're going to change some things up. They're going to have to. You change stuff every year. But for the most part, the cadences, the play calling, the terminology, the install of the playbook, the fact that the Ravens aren't going to see a lot of turnover compared to the rest of the league, I think that's an advantage. I mean, we'll see when the games get going just how advantageous that is, but let's look in the division. Look at the Bengals. They've got a rookie quarterback coming in who we all expect to be talented and to be a franchise guy for years to come, but he's getting thrown into the fire with no preseason, a shortened training camp, and he's going to go out there week one, and he's played on the biggest stages of them all. in college football. At LSU, he's played in the national championship. It doesn't get any bigger than that. Those SEC games, big, huge crowds, sometimes bigger than NFL crowds. So he's been under the spotlight. But to be in the NFL game, the NFL speed, with that lack of preparation, I'm interested to see how Joe Burrow holds up. And it's not just him. It's plenty of teams around the league that are relying on rookies, new players, new coaches to come in and get everything in shape without their normal preparation. I think there's a little bit of an advantage there for the Ravens because everyone's dealing with the same issues, but the Ravens, in my opinion, are best equipped to navigate those issues and maybe avoid some of the negative effects you could see from that. So if they can get through training camp without any issues, that'll be the big thing for me. I want to know what the Ravens are doing in training camp, but we say this every year. If it was a regular year, we're always talking about this in training camp. No news is good news. Nobody is getting injured. Nobody's getting suspended for PEDs. No one's getting suspended for some off-the-field nonsense, domestic violence, whatever it is, getting arrested, DUIs. We don't want any of that. We don't want any injuries. No news is always good news at this time of year for the NFL, and we'll continue to say that. So if the Ravens don't have the most preparation, it's okay as long as they roll into Week 1 healthy with the full squad. I like their odds. I think we can all agree with that. That's going to do it for episode 115. That was pretty bad, probably. I don't know. It was probably a lot of rambling, but I didn't expect to do the episode by myself again, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see if I can actually get things fixed by next week. I am not counting on it, though. I'm like I said, at this point, I'm borderline giving up, and I don't know what else to do. So I have a week to figure it out, and hopefully I'm talking to Ian next week because I can't do another one of these by myself. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.